Well, hello, and welcome to a very special edition of Freedom Matters with Mark McIntire. I am your host, Mark McIntire. And the reason why it's a very special edition of Freedom Matters, because today we're going to talk about the freedom that technology affords us. And I happen to have here, sitting in studio, a very good friend of mine. I've known Peter for 37 years?
32.
32, on and off, mostly off, as it turns out. Right? And Peter and I are thinking about doing a podcast show here in the studio, right?
Yeah, we're going to call it Tech Bar.
Tech Bar, and we're actually going to have a bar, right? And
look at tech.
And what are we going to do? What are we going to do?
We're going to unbox exciting new tech products that make our lives better. That's the overall theme.
So software, hardware.
Laptops, smartphones.
Will we tell people what to avoid buying and what to buy? And
absolutely.
We do that.
We're going to look at the pricing, what's affordable, what is maybe a little expensive,
what's junky,
what we recommend, what we don't recommend.
Right.
And give some real consumer guidance that way.
Good. Are we going to take suggestions from our viewers? Are we going to?
Absolutely. I think we should.
Oh, and we're going to have a website too, aren't we?
We are going to have a website. It's going to be markandpeter.com.
Markandpeter.com. How original was that?
Yes, exactly.
Unbelievable. Did you think of that on your own?
I think I did, actually.
Did, yeah. So we're going to have a lot of fun, right? Because we know each other, and good friends usually do pretty
Now, you may ask, why bar?
Yeah.
What is the bar in Tech Bar? Okay?
Okay.
I think it's because you may occasionally see us with a glass of Bordeaux or Sauvignon Blanc.
Yes. Or Poulet Frisé.
Yeah.
Or Saint-Emilion. Or
Pourquoi
Saint-Julien.
pas? Oui.
Or Pomerol.
Yes.
So we're actually going to have a bar. In fact, it's sitting in the corner of the studio right over there. I can look at it right now. We're actually going to use that bar.
Okay.
And so, because we're going to ask some local wineries to sponsor our show.
That's right. By local, by the way, we're talking about Santa Barbara County local, aren't we?
Barbara. Yeah, all Central Coast.
Central Coast.
Central Coast wineries. And we have a lot of wineries. Let me tell you something.
It's one of the reasons why people come here.
That's right. That's the reason I come here.
To taste wine.
Right. And that's the reason I'm going to watch your show.
That's right.
That's what they're going to do.
Taste wine and talk about tech.
So it'll be a wine and tech bar.
Exactly.
You know what? We might actually be giving somebody an idea to open one up permanently.
Oh, yeah.
A wine and tech bar.
Hey,
what's
that's
an idea?
different. That is an idea.
That is an idea. All right. So that's what we're going to do. We're in the process of negotiating with our overlords here at the station.
Yes. The producers, the writers.
Yes. Elliot Jacobson, whom you know.
Yes, I do.
From the opera.
From the
and
opera.
The Chorale. Yeah. And Michael Nicholson, who's our line producer.
Oh, I love Mike.
Michael's
terrific.
Great. He's just fantastic. And so that's what we're planning to do.
Yeah.
We'll let you all know that we're going to be doing it when we're going to be doing it. It won't be called Freedom Matters. It'll be called
Tech Bar.
Tech Bar
with Mark and Peter.
With Mark and Peter, and you can get them on markandpeter.com. We just bought that, right?
We just bought that domain. I paid an ungodly sum.
He negotiated. He did a really good job in negotiating.
That's right. That's something too. We may talk about domains at some point.
Yes. Yes, a lot of people.
An internet domain. What is it?
I mean,
do you
have your own domain? Do you have your own domain? If you don't,
you have a phone number, a social security number, but do you have your own domain?
You may not exist unless you have your own domain.
I think it's our domain to have a domain.
That's right. Okay. So once again, it's going to be called
Tech Bar.
Tech Bar, the Mark and Peter show, and we'll be doing all of those things. And you're going to tell us what more we can do, or where we can go. I'm not going to go there. All right. All right. So our next topic is, why do podcasting? Now, you're the expert. Peter has his own company called
Peter Otte Productions.
Peter Otte Productions, right here in
Santa Barbara.
On
TVSB.
On TVSB. And also your office is on
State Street.
State Street, right. So he's very, very, very Santa Barbara, right? And Peter and I go way back, about 32 years ago, when I knew him when he was editor of Mobile Computing.
It was Mobile Office.
Mobile Office.
And Portable Computing.
Portable Computing.
That's right. I was editing both magazines at the time.
Right. And I occasionally would try to write something for the magazine, but of course his editor, he didn't like it. So we have to
reject.
Podcasting.
Yeah. I actually have some questions for you about this.
Oh,
okay. Because I've heard about podcasting. I've thought maybe I should give that a try. But, I don't really have the bandwidth. I don't really want to set aside the time to do it. But you're the one who kind of persuaded me, you know what? Maybe we should do a podcast together. So could you tell me why we're doing this? What the heck are we doing, and why are we doing it?
Well,
and what is podcasting?
Okay,
what is a pod? And how do you cast it?
And how do you cast your pod?
Yeah, cast your pod with me.
Well, a pod really is a takeoff on the idea of an episode, a little self-contained thing, sort of like an inflated bite.
But doesn't it have anything to do with iPod? I mean, doesn't it have
It started that way.
Okay.
It started that way. That's its etymology, if you want.
Okay.
From the iPod, which
Origin.
now, of course, has gone the way of the dodo bird.
Yes.
You remember what happened to the dodo bird.
Right, extinct.
But that's how it started. And it started with people putting out various little bits and bytes about hardware and software. And then it got into social issues. And now it's become this gigantic enterprise.
Wave.
Yeah, it's actually gone beyond the website. It used to be you had to have a website. Then you used to have a YouTube channel.
Right.
Then it used to be that you'd have to have social media presence.
Right.
This goes beyond that.
Now, social media would be examples of social media.
Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, any of those things.
Okay.
And a lot of people started with audio only. All right. Now, if you're thinking about doing a podcast and you're only going to do audio only, you are in the rear view mirror of this technology.
That's right.
If you're thinking about a podcast, which we are planning to do it as an MP4 video, which has the audio in it. Reason is, most of the best platforms to host your podcast offer the MP4 distribution, which means that on my iPhone, I can either listen to the MP3 part of the program, or
which is the audio file,
or I can watch it as a video.
So tell me, there's a company called Podbean.
Yes.
Podbean.com,
Right.
I think. So tell me about this company and
it's an
and what it's
amazing
useful
company.
for.
I do a podcast with Alex Madagian, who's my man in Washington, D.C. He brings me all the great guests that I have on Freedom Matters. But Podbean is one of the big companies that will actually host your particular podcast. And the reason why we went with Podbean is it's B-E-A-N, not B-E-A-M.
Like Jack and the Beanstalk.
Jack and the Beanstalk, exactly.
Okay, right.
And the reason is because all we have to do is record a podcast and then upload it to Podbean. It then pushes the program out to other platforms automatically for us. So it goes out to iTunes, which is a big market. It goes out to YouTube, which is an even bigger market. And of course, it resides on its own platform.
Well, then tell me, what exactly is uploading? I've heard that term before, but what are you doing when you're uploading?
When you're uploading, you're actually transferring an MP4 file. I'm just going to talk about MP4s because I don't want you messing with MP3s. You make an MP4. However, we're making it here in the studio right now. You do it at home. All of you folks do it when you do Skype. That's an MP4. You can actually download that MP4 by right mouse clicking on that file, which is in your chat box, and download it as an MP4.
So an MP4, it sounds like, is a type of file.
It's a file type, exactly.
Maybe a compressed file.
Right.
Now, I'm wondering, how would I go about making an MP4 file? What type of program would I need to create that?
Most computers, especially the Macintosh iBook, they have a good camera.
Do you mean the MacBook Pro?
The MacBook Pro, thank you. The MacBook Pro, they have a good enough camera and a good enough microphone, so you don't have to go out and buy a lot of equipment. If you're on the PC side, you may have to go out and invest in a nice camera.
Why is that? Is that because PCs are inferior?
That's one of the things we're going to talk about on our show, right?
Well, I'm just wondering. I mean, you say you have to get additional equipment if you have a PC.
Well,
does that mean they're inferior?
I have a Lenovo laptop.
Okay.
And I have tried podcasting with that, and it sucks.
Okay.
In a word. Okay.
Right.
It's not.
Can we say that word?
Yeah, you can say any word. This is public access. You can say anything you want.
Okay, because freedom matters.
Freedom matters.
Freedom of speech.
So anyway, let me get back to your question.
Yes.
Uploading. So you make this a video. It could be two people sitting side by side.
Right.
It could be a Skype conversation that you have. And once you've got the MP4 made and saved on your computer, you log into your Podbean account, and the software there will allow you to click on episodes, new episodes, and then it'll ask you what file you want to upload. You then grab the file with your little mousy, click. You drop it on the little square, and it goes whoop, whoop, whoop.
It shoots up into the
ether. The ethos, yes.
Okay.
The cloud.
The cloud.
Up in the clouds.
All right, so you're using a couple of words that I don't really understand what they mean.
Like what?
What is a Skype, for God's sakes?
Skype is a program.
Okay.
No, come on. Skype is a very popular program. I believe it's owned by Google.
No.
One of the big ones owns it.
No.
Microsoft. Oh, it's Microsoft.
Microsoft.
Microsoft owns this software.
That's right.
Right. And it allows you to use your camera and microphone on your computer to make a phone call and have a video conference.
Oh, okay.
So it's video conferencing software.
And can you record that file, that conversation too?
The competitors are like GoToMeeting.
Okay.
And there are a number of them out there. But most people use Skype.
It seems to me like it would be useful to get some advice about which platform to use, like Skype versus GoToMeeting versus WhatsApp or whatever.
On the Mark and Peter show, they're going to get this advice.
Oh, I see.
Oh, yes.
We might evaluate these different platforms.
Yes, indeed. We're going to be evaluating these things. Let's not give it away.
I heard recently, by the way, that you attempted to interview someone on Skype.
Yeah, it didn't work.
And it didn't work. Now, why didn't it work?
It didn't work because the Skype program on their end of the call was deficient in some aspect. I don't know. I'm not there. I can't troubleshoot.
Now, can you be a little more specific? I'm not trying to cross-examine
No.
Deficient means what exactly?
She was not able to establish a link, a connection. Both computers have to handshake. That was the old term. They have to handshake. I have to acknowledge that I'm me, and she has to acknowledge that she's her, and then we can talk together.
You mean log in?
Log in.
Okay.
Yeah. So she was not able to do that. She could not do it on her the Skype software on her phone, and she could not do it on the Skype software on her computer. So she has to go and look at the Skype software. It's probably, she hasn't used Skype for over a year.
Oh, I see.
She just told me that. So maybe her account has gone moribund or has gone extinct, has gone,
Well, show of hands. How many people have forgotten their password in the last year? For something. Anything.
I'll put up two hands.
Exactly.
Am I getting robbed here?
This is something. Not yet, but we're working on that.
Give me your wallet.
I just heard a couple of sirens outside, though.
Okay.
Maybe someone's on their way. But that's the point. Well, let me come back to podcasting. So how do let's suppose that I wanted to make a podcast of some kind.
Right.
How do I know that it's going to be a quality podcast that people actually want to see? Is there any way to make money?
Well, first of all, you
podcasting.
would want to watch the Mark and Peter show
to
answer all of your questions.
That's true.
But if I can just give you a sort of a preview, and I'll take them redactively. Okay. Yes, you can make money. Some of the really big podcasters like Joe Rogan.
What about Michael Shermer? Is he also a podcaster?
Jordan Peterson. They literally make millions of dollars.
Wow.
Millions. Joe Rogan makes about $15 million a year on his podcast.
That's amazing.
Right.
Just from this little file that he uploads, his little MP4?
This MP4 he has a large studio and a big staff. So he's at the TV production quality, right? Whereas my podcast with Alex, I do it from my home studio, and he does it from his.
And how many millions of dollars do you make a year, Mark?
We're working on that. My people are talking to their people.
Okay.
And we'll have a report on that. Actually, we actually got 2 contributors this month.
Oh, really?
So we actually have income. We've only been on since January.
Okay. Well, that's outstanding.
And if I can do it, certainly you guys can do it, right?
Well, one would hope.
One would hope. So yes, you can make money. Yes, you can make money. But you have to be patient and you have to be persistent. I do a podcast with Alex Madagian. He's in Washington, D.C. I'm here in Santa Barbara. We have 98 podcasts up and running on Podbean.
Wow, that's a lot. 98.
We have over 2,800 downloads.
But that's a little intimidating. How do you come up with 98 podcasts?
We like to talk a lot. We have a lot of opinions about things, right?
And what do you talk about on
we talk about everything. We talk about cultural affairs, politics, philosophy, theology.
What can you talk about on a podcast? What are the sort of topics that make sense?
Now, be careful. If you want to go to YouTube, don't use bad words and don't attack anybody, and certainly don't offend anybody who's easily offended and sensitive. Just don't do that, because...
Are you easily offended?
No.
Did I say anything that offended you?
But I do offend people.
Okay.
In fact, I make an art form out of offending.
I find that slightly offensive, by the way. Especially that tie. No, I'm kidding.
Right. So you've got to be careful about. You really do have to be careful about the platforms that your Podbean is going to actually broadcast out to.
Okay.
So think of podcasting as another way of TV broadcasting. It's another level.
So it's kind of like when you were growing up and your mother told you, sit up straight.
Right.
Talk so that your voice can be heard.
Right. Don't pick your nose.
Take a shower.
Right. Right.
Get clean.
Change your underwear.
Right. Review your material. Know what you're talking about. That's important, isn't it?
Don't bump into the furniture.
Yeah, don't bump into the furniture.
Right. Don't break anything.
Shake hands and look them in the eye.
Exactly.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah. So if you can do any of those things, or all of those things, you're going to make money.
Okay.
But you're right. You have to have content. Mm-hmm. People are not going to watch a podcast that does not have exciting content.
That's true.
Okay? So don't try to do a podcast on something you don't know anything about.
Well, what is an example of exciting content?
Well, I know a friend of mine here, Josh Grega. He does a podcast here in Santa Barbara, and he does sports, sports. And he rags on sports figures. He just rags on them.
Like, for example?
Well, Justin Bieber is going to fight Tom Cruise. I don't know. But he rags on that.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Michael Shermer actually does a podcast right here in this studio.
He does?
Michael Shermer does a podcast right here in this studio. And I know, it's one of his
special. Does he use his chair?
He uses this one, actually. He likes turquoise.
All right.
He doesn't like gray.
Oh, I see.
Doesn't like gray.
All right, give me the gray one.
Right.
I get it.
So that's pretty much it. Now, you asked me a question when we were preparing for the show about, have we become a mobile office? Have we become a mobile?
Oh, I did. And I think we're going to shift gears.
Yeah, because we're running out of time. We have another guest.
We have another guest coming up. Okay, so this is
very exciting guest, by the way. Very exciting.
Expeditiously.
Expeditiously, yeah.
So in the early 90s, I was writing about mobile and editing a magazine about mobile technology.
Right, I remember you.
In those days, we had laptops from companies like Toshiba, IBM, Dell, and a few others.
Right.
Even Apple at one point.
Remember Compaq?
Compaq computer, that's right. Hewlett-Packard, but Compaq computer.
Yeah, they were big.
Remember that sewing machine that they had?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And the dual floppies, and the green screen and the orange screen, and the dual floppies that you pushed in.
And this was before we had smartphones. Back then we had cell phones or cellular phones.
Which were like little...
Well, there were car phones,
but you could
which
take
were
them out.
permanently installed in somebody's car, and then you'd see these goofy antennas off the roof of the car.
Right.
Anyways, then we had the bat phones and so on. Anyway, at that time, I was really interested in the idea of the mobile office.
Right.
At some point in the future, I felt we were going to be able to break away from offices and work in the field, or work ideally wherever we wanted to. And at that time, for example, I was really interested in moving to Europe.
Right.
And at some other time, when we have more time, we'll go into details of that. In management, I was editing a magazine. I had a staff. We had production meetings and so on. And they were just horrified that I had this suggestion. I said, what are you talking about? I'm editing a magazine about mobile technology. Doesn't it make sense to actually let me go someplace and test this stuff out? Oh, well, wait a minute. You're taking it too far. Okay, well, I'm not saying I'm a visionary or anything like that. I'm just saying, look, let's just try this exciting idea. So here we are today, 2019. And where are we? Have we arrived at? And the answer is yes, we have arrived. We do have mobile technology that's so sophisticated that it's able to replace our desktop computers, and many, many people are working from home, working remotely, and there are many applications of this sort of dispersed workforce.
Right.
And I don't think people really ask the question anymore because I think it's already arrived. And if you look at a company like Apple, for example, when Steve Jobs was still alive, he said, we're really a mobile devices company. And what he meant by that is that most of their sales were smartphones, laptops, iPads, let's say, iPhone, iPad, MacBook Pro, and a couple of other devices that were all part of this mobile revolution. It had definitely arrived. In fact, maybe in some ways they were charting a new course for other companies to follow. In other ways, maybe they were following the footsteps of other companies that had already been there. But it doesn't really matter who takes credit for that. The fact is that it's arrived, and now we have all these mobile devices, and that's a particular area of interest of mine.
And more people are working from their home or their car or their remote location in a hotel room or in a foreign hotel or a motel, wherever they are. So the chances are that people who are young in their high school age now, they'll probably have 3 or 4 jobs that are out of this country.
That's right.
Out of country.
Or out of this world.
Or
oh, sorry.
Hopefully it's going to be out of this world.
Okay.
Hopefully that. So you think that yes, the answer is yes, we do live in a mobile office society.
Absolutely. And I think if I were in that same situation today, and if I were to make that same proposal to the staff and to the management, hey, let me go edit this magazine from Amsterdam, and you guys would be back here in California, I think they'd say, sure, go ahead.
Right. They wouldn't even think about it.
They wouldn't even think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, back then we were limited by the constraints of the technology, the bandwidth, the baud rates. We talked about baud rate.
And the miniaturization of the digital device itself.
That's right.
Right.
And
I want to ask you, what do you think is the next thing after we got about 6 more minutes here on your segment, and we got another guest coming in the wings here. But I wanted to ask you, okay, how small can we get these things? How small can we, could we really have, remember the Apple glasses? Okay. Is that the next best thing, is when we actually have goggles or a mask over our eyes that are hooked up into our ears so that our phone is activated by our thoughts?
Well, certainly it's already activated by our voice.
Right.
We can use Siri.
Right.
What's the Google version for Android? You say, hey, Google?
Echo.
Echo.
Yeah.
No, that's Amazon.
Oh, that's Amazon.
Amazon Echo. Hey,
I don't know
Alexa. Alexa, I think, is the...
yeah.
Anyways, there are basically 3 voice recognition technologies that are quite... That's right. There's Siri, Alexa, and the Google
else.
Voice.
Right. Or Hey You.
Hey You.
Hey You.
In any case.
But
all right.
what do you, when you and I started in the computer business, these machines were humongous compared to what they are today.
Yeah.
And there's an inverse proportional relationship between the time that it takes technology to develop and the time that the technology advances.
There are some technological hurdles that still need to be
Is there a wall?
Overcome. There are some walls.
There are walls. Okay.
Some of them are very technical, that are engineering related.
Yeah.
Some of them are a little more apparent. For example, when you shrink down a very powerful CPU, like the latest crop of Intel CPUs, and you put them into the latest crop of MacBook Pros, there are thermal issues.
Right.
And you can only take it to a certain point before the CPU has to ratchet down, as it were, or slow down, because it's just giving off way too much heat for this tiny enclosure. This is going to be a big engineering challenge.
Overcoming the heat challenge.
Because I think part of the problem, frankly, is that the components, such as those made by Intel, are just too energy consumptive and producing too much heat.
Right.
And that's a problem. So those type of solutions are very important. We've broken so many barriers, with the technology, the storage, the RAM.
Let's talk about
graphics.
storage for a second.
Yeah.
Okay, this is about the size of a thumb drive. It's not a thumb drive. It happens to be the top of my pen, but it's about the same size. Okay. How many gigabytes can we put on this? Gigabytes.
Right. We could probably put at least 500 gigabytes, if not a whole terabyte, in a device of that size.
Right. And it just by comparison, terabytes
We're now talking about we're in the age of terabytes right now, and by age, tech. We're not talking geologic time.
No.
We're talking tech time,
Tech time.
which is literally measured in months.
Which we're going to see on Tech Bar.
That's right.
Well, Peter Otte, he's here, and he's the CEO and president of Peter Otte Productions, and they're here in Santa Barbara. And we're actually going to go a little bit early. We're going to say goodbye to you.
Okay. Thanks for having me on your show. I appreciate it.
We'll be seeing you again.
I hope so.
And so we're actually going to be taking our pause a bit early, and we're going to introduce our next guest. So stay with us, folks. Okay.
Okay.
Nice to have you on the show, Peter.
Okay. See, I'm looking you in the eye.
You stay right.